Before
Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay, I think so. Just when I think things are cool. Okay. Just when I think things are all set and fine, they are not. So here's another look at Double T and his ridiculous weird lobster claws. I think a turtle with lobster claws is the most disturbing thing I've seen all day. All right, you have to go sit down. So happy Friday Eve, my friends. Thanks, Druid. Hello, Marianne. I love that little hand wave emoji. Looks like, did you get that from another streamer? Yeah, it looks like that's from another channel. That was really cute. With a little hand. So it's Friday Eve. It's really hot out. I think these intermittent lovely spring days that I have been experiencing here and there I think they're done for this season. Yes, humid and hot. I think it's supposed to get into the 90s today. And the last 2 days I think were much cooler, but still, the humidity. Ugh. Yeah, it's roasting. I hear ya. So we will all be trying to stay cool. I think even with air conditioning, I think humidity just it always gets you. And it's, we sit here and say not the heat, but it's the humidity, and it is so true. Having gone to like the Southwest, it's, certainly roasty there. I immediately catch on fire. But the sweatiness feels different than it does here in the East Coast or in semi-tropical areas such as like the Southeast and stuff. Oh, it's the worst. Actually, I was somebody sent me I think it was on Instagram, might have been Facebook, one of those Reels stories. Somebody forwarded me one, and it was actually, I think, it was either Minnesota or Wisconsin. I think it was Minnesota. And they were talking about the humidity, and I'm always like, what? That's the Midwest. But I think well, Minnesota obviously has a million lakes. but Wisconsin too, I guess you get kind of that lake effect, and Marianne, you probably get that too. I'm guessing it's coming off the Great Lakes, whereas here on the East Coast we're getting it from the Atlantic. But either way, it's water in the air that that you can't get rid of. So, ah, I don't know which I dislike. Oh yes, breathing underwater, absolutely. Like soup. It's like you go outside and you've got lungs full of soup. I don't know which I dislike more. Summer, like the dead of summer, or the dead of winter. Um, I've always had the conversation with my, friends and family. It's like I have lots of quilts and blankets and things. I think I can stay warm. Um, but you can only take off so many clothes before you're down to your skin and your skin doesn't come off. The rainforest of Tennessee. Yeah, and that's another one. For Tennessee, like you got the Great Smoky Mountains, and they're smoky for a reason, I guess. Tennessee's got some humidity trap. All right, guys. So today, want to finish up on some of the stuff I showed you on Monday, and then also give you a little teaser for next week. I had completely forgotten. I got something while I was traveling. With when I went up to Massachusetts to see Jill, and then went to Rhode Island and Block Island and all that. Ran into a mutual friend of mine and Jill, and she mentioned something, and I was like, "Huh, let me research that." I have this fantastic story to read you guys, and I don't know how it ends, but it's really funny. So we'll get into that next week. That's the plan. And like I said, today we're gonna finish some of the interesting information in here. Yeah, a temperate rainforest. It's been a while since I've been to Tennessee. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's lots of places in the U.S. where you have, forestation, trees and things. I mean, trees do contribute to, moisture in the air. I mean, the Southwest is more rocks than trees, and you see they don't have humidity. So it's the darn trees we should blame. I'm kidding. But I think that there is something connected there. I think that just our actual geography, and like your Tennessee geography contributes to not just the water sources, but also these climate things. So anyway, if it wasn't for crazy weather, what would we complain about? Don't answer that question. All right, so we're gonna get to this, and then I'm again hoping to give. I gotta watch the time. Yell at me if I'm going too slow, because we want to give Avril Colby some more time. I really have been giving her the short end of the stick in reading lately. Also, I have a quick question for you guys. If you are so inclined, I am going to be leading. I'm the moderator for a panel this weekend, and it is about entry-level research, material culture research. Of course, it's specific to quilts, but from the perspective of needlework tools, quilts, quilt history, those kind of things. Do you guys have any kind of what are you curious about? Like if you were going to embark on some research, what would be your first, thoughts? What kind of questions would you have? I'm sort of collecting questions from as many people as I can who have never done research or are newer to the idea of researching quilt history. So if you think of anything over the next however long we're on here, put it in the chat. Let me know what questions you would ask. And I will get you an answer if you have a very specific question that. But otherwise, if you could just think of anything that might be, worthwhile, like, I don't know, when you were in school where you asked to research something and you were like, what do I do? Yeah, those are inquiring minds. I just missed, Marianne, you said the black flies. Oh Lord, those are the worst. I don't know if they're the same thing that I've endured here on the East Coast. They're particularly bad, like at the ocean. Um, I remember we went down to Hatteras when my son was about a year old and just tried to camp down there. Oh my gosh. A sweaty baby and black flies. Yeah. And with that whole, like, all of that information about the media's talking about the screw worms, um, those flies. Um, we had a massive storm yesterday, and my son and I were going in and out of the house, bringing in groceries and stuff, and we left the door open too long. And with the storm coming, ushered some house flies in, and I'm sure they're just plain old like house flies, but there was like 3 of them in my house last night, and I'm still like, I think I got them all. But I'm like, don't come and bite me. I freak out about stuff like that. That whole thing about the screwworms, oh, parasites, ooh, so awful. All right, let's move on to better subjects. I don't need to take us down that road. Okay, so research questions. Put that in the back of your mind and keep generating as we talk. So, you've seen this the other day, a couple times. Oh, clear sticky sheets. Interesting. I have those little things that you plug in that have the light. Yeah. I've never been to Salt Lake City. I've never been to Utah. Lots of flies. Interesting. What is it about the Salt Lake? Okay, so Patchwork Tsushin, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, was a Japanese magazine, quilt magazine. I think I'm pretty sure they have since stopped printing. But the editor was Naomi Ichikawa, and she is a writer. And I have very briefly met her through American Quilt Study Group, but she has most recently written a book with Teresa Duryea Wong. And I'm blanking on what it's called. It's Kawaii. I think it's Kawaii Quilting or Quilt Kawaii, something like that. Really cool book. I think I mentioned it the other day. It's kind of specific to obviously the phenomenon of cute tiny things, which is kawaii in Japan, but sort of where that idea comes from, in part, is the celebration. I think it's early in the year, and it's like the girls celebration. And they do some cool stuff. They put out these dolls, and it's culturally so very interesting because it's kind of different than anything that we necessarily do here in the States. I mean, some of the decorating and stuff kind of reminds me a little bit of Christmas, but it's nowhere near the same thing. But just very charming, very sweet. And so Naomi, her contributions to the book were sort of about, telling the story of her own experiences as a child, and how that celebration was very near and dear to her heart, and some of the other women that were in the book. So anyway, it's a fantastic book if you are interested in Japanese quilting, and particularly kawaii, because cute, cute, cute. Go check that book out. So it's Naomi Ichikawa and Teresa Duryea Wong. So that is available now. I got mine through Amazon, but I think it was published. I think it's probably going on 18 months, 2 years since it's been published, I think. Maybe maybe it's just been a year, but in any event, if it's something that speaks to you, go look for it, because it's a really cute book. The magazine, I was not really familiar with it until fairly recently, and then I heard that Naomi had been the editor, and I hadn't really had a chance to check it out. But then when I was traveling up to Massachusetts, stopped in at the New England Quilt Museum in Lowell, and they had international magazines to purchase, sort of their yard sale. So $3 a copy. It's very, very cool. This I can't see a price on these, but I know the other Japanese quilting, which I think is Quilting Japan, that I bought a few times, full price from some quilt shops, and I think I got one copy, might have been in a bookstore in California, I think. In any event, those are quite expensive at the time. I mean, and this is probably like 15 years ago. I bought a handful of copies. They were like $15 a piece, and that was a long time ago. I'm not even sure if that magazine's still in print, but also a very good magazine. In any event, so this one is from, what did we say? This is from 1996. So this is older. So what is that, 30 years? Gosh, it seems like, when you say it out loud, 30 years seems like such a long time ago, but 96, it was the year before my son was born, and he will be 29 this year, so I guess the math works, the maths, but it always surprises me when I realize that 1996 was that long ago. In any event, we already looked at one little snippet in here, and it was a little piece that featured sort of a quote by, I guess it was a quote by Mary Kay Waldvogel, and a little tiny column about quilt history. And so I wanted to look at the rest of this because Joyce Gross and Julie Silber and Roderick Kiracofe are also in this. And it's the California article here. So without further ado, we'll start with the Barbara Brackman article, because I think I showed you that the other day, and then we'll move into the California article. So, okay. So this is the Barbara Brackman article, and it is way in the back of the magazine. And not being able to read Japanese, I'm not clear on like the glossy parts of the magazine versus this more like it's not newsprint. It's more of like a matte one color printing. It's hard for me to tell like what, unless there's very clearly it's a classified. It's kind of hard to tell what the sections of the magazine are. You have the classifieds, and then you have the instructions on how to make stuff. Those are pretty clear, but some of the other areas it's confusing for me just because I don't read Japanese. But luckily I don't have to read Japanese because Google can do it for me. I do have to say though, I noticed some of the translations are a little bit weird. So, let's just be aware of that. And let's see, I'm gonna, okay, so I'm turn this to the side so I can read it easily. And this is another thing that was interesting. I think I mentioned this the other day because Mary Kay's little snippet was turned sideways. And, in Japan, we would consider it reading the magazine backwards, but their magazines, it opens the other way. So you read right to left, and I think top to bottom, right? And, yes, top to bottom. But a lot of the articles, it's really weird. Like the text was put in sideways. And maybe it had to do with just editorially how things fit. And it, it's just a common thing. But I was surprised when I realized looking at this that I guess it's just the way that it translates. I don't know, because I don't speak Japanese, write Japanese, read Japanese. It's confusing to me. But let us read this article. So here we have, first of all, this little bit here is a little blip about Barbara. So it says Barbara Brackman, and interestingly, it has her name in Japanese and in English. That was how I found this article. I was just flipping through and I was like, Brackman. So what you see here, that's her name in Japanese. And then this little bit here is about her. And it says, a quilt researcher residing in Kansas, United States, USA. She regularly writes articles for numerous quilt magazines and has authored many books. She also works as a curator for quilt exhibitions held in museums and galleries. Oh, so, okay, that's a good question, Druid. Let me tell you how I did that. So, Google Lens is one of the Google apps, and I mean, my phone's an Android, and if I remember correctly, Lens did not come pre-installed, I don't think. I got like all of the Google stuff kind of came with the phone, but I think Lens didn't. So you have to go, in my case, it would be Android. I don't know if you have an iPhone, I'm not sure. Um, but with Lens, you can actually just hover. You can open the Lens app and just hover over something that needs to be translated, or you can actually take a picture of the thing and then bring the picture in. So, okay, so it comes with your Google app on your iPhone. Okay. Yeah, I guess iPhones, they have to handle Google a little bit differently because it's not the operating system for Google's, not operating system, but uh, I'm failing to remember the words because I've only been quasi tech, but yeah, it communicates differently than Android does. So yeah, so look for it. It's looks like a little, it almost looks like a little camera thing with the Google colors around it, but then I can't remember what it's got in the middle. In any event, it's called Lens. And I would say that the translations are pretty good. Sometimes it's obvious that they're not, or there's like a phonetic thing going on when you're talking about like Japanese, because the language and the characters are so different than, say, Romance languages like English and, you know, Spanish and French and stuff. Sometimes it's like a phonetic thing that they do to spell out a word or a name that might not be like natively part of their language. So I see that, like, for instance, Joyce Gross sometimes seems to um it calls her Joyce, Joys. So I'm thinking there must be something character related to that. So, oh, good question. Do you do research with Google Scholar? You know, I have not. Um, you know, beyond, and I do know some researchers that do use Google Scholar. And I think it's something I probably should become more familiar with. The people I know that are using it are actually in school, so either working on a doctorate or a master's. So I think I probably am just ignorant of some of the research capabilities of Google Scholar. But I think if I understand correctly, it drills down more closely. But and let me preface that by saying I have looked at the Google Scholar like page or whatever. I mean, it's like a search page, right? It operates a little bit differently than just like regular Google, like just looking for something on the internet. Um, it's like specifically looking into, yeah, specifically looking for studies and research papers, white papers, um, you know, academic publishing. Just like if you choose like like illustrations or images when you search something, I think it's kind of the same thing, but it's set aside into its own realm, I suppose. I definitely need to look into that more, for sure. I like the Google tools. I mean, probably shouldn't say that too loudly. Down with all tech. But yeah, I don't know. I've kind of always been a Google person. Anytime they offer something new, I check it out just to see. But yeah, Google Scholar is one that I think I need to look into more. Okay. So, the main part of the article here. You know, that's the thing about quilt studies. There's a lot of stuff that's published. So if it's got an academic connection, I think Google Scholar can find it. But if it's not, if it doesn't have an academic connection, yeah, I think it can struggle to find stuff. Quilt studies is very niche, and that's not to say quilt studies are particularly special, because there's lots of niche topics out there. But it really is predicated on, I think, how often a particular paper or piece of academic writing has been referenced by other papers and other academic writing. You know, it's like one of those. It's like it's got its own algorithm, I guess, almost. Like, so, yeah, that's I'm gonna add that to the list. And pending what my panelists have to say, I will come back and let you know. Um, ah, it brought back some interesting stuff. Okay, all right. we'll have to do, yeah, maybe we can do some live Google scholaring next week. Okay, so let's read the article. By the way, all of these are so cute. Of course, the little guys, caught my eye right away. And then these little characters also are really interesting. Um, so this one is Dottie the paper doll. This one's also, oh, this one's Dickie the paper doll. So I don't know if that's a good translation or not. So Dottie the paper doll. This one's a soldier boy. This one just had a number, right? Yeah. This one's just got a number, so I don't know. And I think this one too just has a number. These just have numbers. So the ones at the top are Farmer Boy, Overall Bill, and then this one, for some reason, it did not translate, number 3. So I'm guessing it's like probably Overall Boy or something similar. Okay, so the article. Oh, relationship between quilting and well-being. That's a pretty popular topic right now. I'm gonna look at that. Thank you, Marianne, for letting me know. I'm gonna do that search when we get off here because it's kind of one of my pet topics. Okay, so among American quilters, the girls' pattern, Sunbonnet Sue, is commonly used, but boys are also occasionally seen wearing it. Like Sue, their faces are hidden by large hats, and they almost always wear overalls. This is typical attire for American farmers. Oh, is it? Men, both adults and children, wear sturdy denim overalls when working in the fields or tending to cattle. American teenage girls still love this outfit. In the quilt pattern, a boy is wearing it. What's there is a basic cap with a wide brim. In the past, it was worn as a sunshade during farm work. Incidentally, in modern times, it's used in baseball. I'm wearing a hat, though. I don't... Again, I think that's also, like, something miscommunicated because it's weird. It's, like, right in here somewhere. I think there may be, like, a mistranslation there. The boys in the quilts are in various poses and have various names. Number 1 is Overalls Bill. So that's here. Number 2 is Farmer Boy. Number 3, who is with the big boy, is Overalls Andy, and 1 is Andy turned sideways. So I think where she says what translates to who is with a big boy, I think probably should be is with a dog. And then he's turned sideways here. The boy going fishing is holding a fishing rod and a bucket for fish. And that is Fisherman Fred. I actually have a gorgeous quilt that's just him. And it's like 12, I think it's 12 big blocks of just him. And they are beautifully sewn. Probably mid-century, maybe a little, like, probably anywhere from the 40s to the 60s, give or take. And it just, I don't think it was ever used. It may have been washed once or twice, but it's really gorgeous. And I just I have a little bit of an affinity for Fisherman Fred. Okay, so number 5 is here, this one. Boys also love playing soldier, so there are patterns depicting toy soldiers. Sometimes a boy and girl are depicted as a bear. Okay. The cute infinity symbol design with children outstretched arms is called Paper Dolls Dickie and Dottie. So the cute infinity symbol design, I'm not sure. That's a weird translation too. Okay, so Google is not doing a great job. But what she's talking about are these two. And when placed by side, when placed side by side, they look like they're holding hands. The two are appliqued inside blocks. And then it says Sue and Billy is well known. And this one is, I think it's, might be talking about this. So something, this cannot possibly be a correct translation. I don't even know what this word is. But anyway, pattern effectively represents a boy using squares and triangles. It is a simplified depiction of a farm boy wearing a straw hat. So that's what this one is. So kind of weird. And interestingly, this text in here, inside the little bubble, is Barbara's pattern story, and then 6. And then this says little boy. So, I mean, we can get the gist of what this is. I mean, she's talking about, instead of Sunbonnet Sue, she's talking about Sunbonnet Sue's companion. Okay, this page, I think, is going to be about birds. So right here in the center, it says flying bird. This says flying, and yet another word that does not make any sense. Flying tuppence. Tupants. I think it's probably flying swallows or flying something. This is a really cool pattern. I've seen it a few times out in the wild. Actually, I had a quilt top for a while. It didn't belong to me, but I had it in my possession for a while. And it was this pattern, and it was made out of like plaids. And so it was very striking. I don't think that it was a great choice of the fabrics that they used, because it was kind of hard to pick this out. But once you saw it, it was like, that's really cool. So, but I can't remember if this is, if it's called flying tulips, flying tulips, flying swallows, flying birds. I can't remember. Flying geese, of course, are over here. Bird of Paradise. This one is Bird of Paradise. This just says Patchwork Birds. This also says Bird of Paradise, but let's see. Yep, those look like the same characters. So 10 and 9 are both Birds of Paradise. And whatever Asuka means, Asuka, that is what this block and this block say. And now, are those the same characters? Yes, I think they are. So whatever Asuka is, I'm not sure. And then these, let's see, this one's also Asuka, as is this one. So I don't know, that must be an actual Japanese word, and it must not translate well into English, but to me, these are like birds in flight. You know, that's what these say to me. So that must be like flock. Maybe that's the word Asuka. Maybe it's the word for like flock of birds or flock. This is just a guess. I really truly don't know. This one for some reason did not translate, but this did, and it's illustration by Miyuki Yamanaka. Okay. So the name Asuka is a popular gender-neutral Japanese name. The most common meanings are flying bird or tomorrow's fragrance. You know, it's just so funny how some languages translate, you know, and I'm sure that tomorrow's fragrance most likely is some kind of idiom or something that would make complete sense to somebody in Japan, but doesn't make sense to us. See, flying bird symbolizes freedom, adventure, and soaring to new heights. This is the most common kanji for boys. Oh, interesting. Okay. But it's also widely used for female names and fictional characters. Tomorrow. Okay, so that's a name. Combines the kanji for tomorrow and perfume. Okay. Evokes a sense of optimism, pleasantness, and looking forward to the future. This is primarily used for girls. I see. Okay. So it's sometimes used for boys, which I think I see the connection here, maybe. Um, and that's just where I guess I just don't know enough about Japanese culture to really speak intelligently about this, but little bits I've gleaned over just hearing and reading things. This is I'm kind of understanding this. I actually did take a Japanese oh gosh, the Japanese culture and art history or something. I took a class when I was in college, and I remember um being really fascinated by how different some of the concepts are. And again, it's like the kind of thing like, you know, people in Japan probably like don't even think twice about it, and it's probably kind of similar to our symbology and um idioms and such. And it just the translation is doesn't isn't easy for us because it's not exactly like a one-to-one. So so Asuka is the name of a village and historical period. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, Japanese culture is so fascinating. And there's a lot of influence also from, between, US and Western culture and back and forth. There's lots of things in Japan that I think that influence us, particularly today, in pop culture. And I think that it's just so fascinating. Okay, so the article. So let's read what it says. Let's see if I can flip this around so I can read it easier. Okay. So this says American piecing patterns are often abstract and many are difficult to understand without knowing their names. Good point. um, Island patterns are one such example. I don't think that's a correct translation. I don't know. Something patterns are one such example. They are often represented by triangles, squares divided diagonally. But Luther, also not correct. But something connects these triangles to create various blocks, each named after a flying bird. 1 through 3 are patterns called flying birds, found in 19th century quilts. Number 1, flying swallows. Okay, that's this one. I was right. It's swallows. No, wait a minute. It's not that one. Okay, this is flying swallows. Is a design depicting swallows flying in a circle at dusk. No, that's this. I think that's this. Even though it's listing it as number 1, it's this. This is flying swallows. That's why it. Yeah, the geese are this one. This is flying geese right here. But this one, I do remember that this one is swallows because I looked it up when I had the quilt top in my possession. It was interesting. I'd never seen it like out in the wild. So I had researched it and found the name of it. Do they not have geese in Japan? I think they do. There's probably a different like variety than we see here, but I'm sure they have geese there. Some sort of farm bird. Yeah, so this one they recognize as flying geese, but yeah, I think that these numbers might be mixed up. Okay. So flying swallows is a design depicting swallows flying in a circle at dusk. At dusk, not dust. There are also many patterns named after geese. Geese are commonly seen in the countryside, so perhaps it was designed by a farm woman. It is also called mother and baby geese or fox and geese. Interesting. Fox and geese. I'm pretty sure I've seen that title before. The large triangle can be seen as the parent bird, the small triangle as the chick. So I think she must be talking about these right here. The small triangle is the chick, or the arc may look like it's scaring the goose. So I guess that's where we're coming in with the fox. A butter pattern. I don't think butter's the right word. A pattern depicting birds flying in a beautiful line. There are also flying geese. If you connect them, the birds will fly in formation in spring and autumn. So again, this is what she's talking about here. This is the kind of design it will be. So a parallelogram. This represents a bird. So they're referring to number 3. Which one is number 3? Up here. This one. The number is for paradise. 4 birds. I can picture the birds flying around happily. Using tropical colors on a long tail gives it a tropical feel. It will become a bird. Also, the parent bird will raise the chicks in a nest. There is also a pattern that is shown in the bird's nest. The diagonally arranged squares are likened to fruits and the triangles to islands. So again, I think some of these words are just not translating properly. And they are referring to this one they're saying is a bird's nest, but I think it's this one. I think that they've been swapped. The numbering. It evokes images of warm family and parent-child scenes. This pattern is suitable for wedding gifts and baby showers. It would be good to use for things like this. It is a realistic depiction of an island. Again, I think island is actually nest. I think it's just translating incorrectly. This was designed in the 1930s. There are many birds, so it's not suitable for beginners, but birds have feathers. And I think that's this, because this is so dense. I'm assuming is what she means. It will make a beautiful quilt, indeed. The regularly arranged triangles have a sense of direction and evoke an image of straight growth. I'm assuming like movement. Why not use a flying bird pattern for a quilt to celebrate a new beginning? So it's unfortunate that some of that translation is not good. Let's see. So Druid says the greater white-fronted goose, the most abundant species found in massive flocks, especially in northern Japan. Bean goose, taiga and tundra, frequently seen alongside the white-fronted goose. Rare species, smaller numbers of snow geese, cackling geese, and brent geese can also be spotted. Yeah, I wonder how different those are from, like, the Canada geese, the various geeses that we know. They are a premier destination for goose watching, with hundreds of thousands of migratory birds, primarily the greater white-fronted goose and the taiga bean goose, spending the winter in its marshes and agricultural lands. Thanks to strict conservation measures, hunting these birds is prohibited, allowing populations to thrive in protected wetlands. Nice. That's very nice to hear. Okay, let me find our Joyce Gross translations. Okay. So moving right along. And see, this is the beginning of our California article. I don't think I translated this one, did I? I don't think I did. So I'm not sure. This is Joyce's house, I presume. Let me bring that one into Google Lens real quick because I'm curious to know what the captions say. Where is it? Obviously, I should have this picture right here in front of me because I took a picture of it. Is it this one? No. Gosh, you guys, I'm a mess today. Why can't I find this picture? Ah, here it is. Okay. So, all right, come on now, translate. Okay, so here at the top, it says, this is a stunning embroidered piece from Joyce's quilt collection. Frog, this is funny, frog-themed merchandise that I collect because I love them. So, I'm sure it's just frog items or frog figures. Isn't that cute? I guess this looks like a piece of wood or something that's been used decoratively with all these frogs. So Joyce was a frog person. It's really sweet. Up here, Joyce's home is a brick house that stands out against the blue sky. Many flowers bloom in the garden. So I didn't know Joyce must have been a gardener too. She must have liked flowers. Here, this one says, the room is furnished with antique furniture. I also prefer antique tableware and decorative items. Don't we all? And then, let's see. Down here. So, by the way, photography is by Sharon Reisedorf and Mia Foster. So it looks like both of them took pictures. So this is the story of Joyce's life as the study is filled with research papers and documents. So this would have been Joyce's office. And it looks like maybe it's like an addition because you could see the brick. And she lived in a brick house. So I'm thinking that her office must have been an addition. But my gosh, I mean, just look at this. I love to see people's workspaces and see the things that they display. So she's got all these little, oops. These all look like maybe note card boxes or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else they would be. They seem like they're probably note card boxes. And then, gosh, look at all of these stacks of papers and all these things. Photographs. Oh, I just love it. Seeing people's faces. I remember these things with the phones. So yeah, you put it on your shoulder so you could talk. And a book called Textiles. Aw, so wonderful. I can't remember. I'm blanking now on what year Joyce passed away. Well, obviously it was after 1996, but I think so. Questa Benberry passed away, I think, in 2012. I think Joyce might have been somewhere around that time period. I think they both passed away, and now I could be getting this wrong, but I want to say it was within several years. And I kind of feel like Joyce passed away first. So, oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention that California people who support quilts. Okay, so this is a picture of Joyce. I think it's such a sweet picture. We're laughing. And up here, this information says, excellent works of this century along with accurate information. I want to pass this on to, and it says the 22nd century. I'm pretty sure Joyce meant the 21st century, but maybe she didn't. Maybe she's like, I want this to keep going. 200 years from now, I want people to have my information. Very possible what she was saying. In this picture here, looks like this beautiful framed. I don't know if it's a picture of a quilt or maybe it's like some needlework, a cross stitch embroidery or something of a quilt. It says information and research reports are placed in drawers, each containing important information collected over many years. So she's using this. Oh gosh, you think that this is like a library, like library furniture maybe? They look like card catalog drawers. Maybe not, but and then these drawers down here look like they could contain flat things. Ah, and I see. This is her desk over here. So this is the, like, I guess it's like a bump out. And this is against that brick wall. So interesting. It's like you're like a little spy in somebody's house. um so it says a prestigious award given annually to outstanding quilters. So this was right around the time that Joyce was inducted into the Quilters Hall of Fame. So it doesn't look like this entire sentence translated, but they're referencing this other little piece that talks about her win or her induction. Okay, so let's read this. I'll turn this one also. Uh-oh. Did I not? Ah, when I took the screenshot, I covered up part of the... Gosh darn it. Okay, bear with me a sec. Let me see if I can put this in Google Lens. Sorry, guys. I really did plan this out. I guess I did a bad job with some of it. The struggle is real, trying to read Japanese. Okay. Alas. Some of this got cut off. All right. Well, Joyce was a quilt researcher from the early 1930s. Okay, that can't be the right date. I don't... Well, maybe. Well, no. Joyce wasn't that old. I think she might have been in her late 80s, maybe, when she passed away. I can't remember. Well, in any event, from the early 19 somethings, she traveled throughout America examining quilt collections in museums and universities. Through this, she discovered the quilt artists of the 20th century, including Rose Kretzinger, Bertha Stange, and Dr. Janet Slockmorton. um, so I think that is a translation. It should be, I think it's Jeanette Stockmorton. She is one of the quilt artists that Joyce wrote about, I think, in her very first issue of the Quilter's Journal. So she was deeply impressed by the wonderful craftsmanship. At the time, there was very little information available about the creators, and Joyce was saddened that even their birth and death dates and places of residence were unknown. She decided to investigate these things herself. She visited family and friends and listened to the stories of women who had now passed away. In 1977, Joyce published the magazine The Quilter's Journal, which compiled articles based on those investigations. From then until 1978, she continued to publish research on quilts and quilt artists. Okay, so I think 1978 is also not a correct translation because I think she published for 10 years. So I think it's probably supposed to be like 1988, I think. So anyway, from then until she stopped publishing, she continued to publish research on quilts and quilt artists in the magazine, and at the same time, she also planned quilt exhibitions. She continued her painstaking work, patiently unearthing treasures that would otherwise have been buried and forgotten. And here's a quote. My grandmother used to make quilts. She left me 2 quilts. Passionate about studying quilts, Joyce, revered as a mentor by quilters across America, greeted us with an unpretentious smile. Since you're here, let me show you some quilts. We were immediately led upstairs and given the good fortune to view each quilt piled high in the closet, with Joyce providing commentary. Every quilt that was laid out before us was magnificent. It was as if the energy of the maker was radiating from beyond the stitches. There are quilts created in this century. These are quilts created in this century. When that thought crossed my mind, they suddenly seemed incredibly precious. Many people seem to think that the best quilts were made before the 20th century, but that's absolutely not true. I want to pass on quilts of this century to the next generation, along with accurate information. It's still not too late if we do it within the 20th century. We can still get accurate information now. Oh, Joyce! Oh, truer, better words were never spoken. I mean, this is, yes, I did. This is through Google Translate. Yep. Through Lens, but it's using the Google Translate feature in Lens. But what she's saying is exactly what I'm thinking constantly about the quilters that began quilting in the 70s, that sort of discovered quilts, quilt history, all the things, either makers or just, lovers of quilts. That, that big ramp up that started in the 70s, so many of those women are elderly or passing away. And yeah, I just, what she's saying is just so very true. And that's the challenge, I think, now is we have so much written, there's lots of magazines like this and magazines of the time, like Quilter's Journal and Quilter's Newsletter magazine, but actually hearing from the horse's mouth, I think, is so very important. So yeah, I think Google Lens is pulling Google Translate in when you ask it to translate something. So yeah, I've had some pretty good, I think the Romance languages are a little bit better. So if you're translating like French or Spanish or Italian to English, I think it tends to work much more flawlessly than when you're translating like Japanese and Chinese, just because of the way that the characters work versus the way that discrete words work. So this last little piece at the bottom says, Joyce Gross, a 71-year-old who playfully calls herself a detective, is an active researcher whose thirst for knowledge knows no bounds. I love that. Her thirst for knowledge knows no bounds. Okay, that was the piece that I had translated. Okay. So this, let me get back here. So, okay, the big pull quote or whatever you call these things. The numerous quilts that were collected during the research, these are precious treasures. It's hard to say. Precious treasures. So as Joyce is looking on, every quilt that has come into my possession holds a special memory. This masterpiece, meticulously sewn together from silk strips and adorned with exquisite embroidery, suggests the creator was a quilter with exceptional skills, not only in patchwork, but also in embroidery technique and a keen sense of color. So that's this one. And I think, let's see, this one's called, I think it's called Chinese coins, like coins stacked up, but also I think Roman stripes. Although Roman stripes might be something slightly different than this. I'm blanking a little bit on that one. Okay, and down here, this one right here is a crazy patch cushion with petty point and chenille embroidery. This piece won an award in the 1893 Chicago World's Fair by a Mrs. Schickerfoods. That cannot possibly be the right translation. whatever this lady's name was. So this one, this little picture says a wooden box that contained a cushion made of American cedar has a delivery label printed with Chicago World's Fair, Illinois. And then there's the cushion inside. So it looks like yeah, it looks like maybe this was underneath that, perhaps. So it's like a chair cushion. Could you imagine? That would not be comfortable to sit on. I'm wondering if it was really more of like a pillow. But then again, I mean, they're talking about this cedar. It could be the box. Now, it doesn't give any information about this, which I'm assuming might be still part of the crazy patchwork. But this seems to me to be, are they cigarette premiums? I think they might be, because look, you see, so I see like China, Turkey, Bethany, Loyola. So these are colleges, right? And then countries. So I don't know. Did they do like colleges or universities or something for cigarette premiums? Cigarette flannels, cigar flannels. The cigarette ones were tiny, like the size of like a pack of cigarettes, whereas the cigar ones were big, like they were the size of a cigar box. So I'm wondering what these are. They're very colorful and fun, whatever they are. Okay. The next picture is here. And so again, people who support quilts. Oh, do you want me to go back and flip this image? Well, doesn't want to be flipped. See, I don't know what that is. Hendrix, maybe Turkey. Bucknell. I mean, Bucknell, that's a university, right? China, Indiana, Chile, Loyola's. Is this Sparta? I can't see. Chattanooga. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, Millsaps, Bethany, Clark, something, Ohio, Armor. Yeah, I don't know. These are. Looks like there's several. Oh no, that's Idaho, not Indiana. Michigan. There's a Michigan. Knights of Malta, maybe? Yeah, I don't know what these are, but yeah, they're all the same scale. That's why I immediately thought that they were like the little cigarette premiums, like um the little pieces of flannel that they would sometimes put in, in cigarette packs. So I've just never quite seen. I know I've seen like flags, countries and flags for sure, but these designs, I'm not sure what they are. No. Okay, so on this page, we still have our people who support quilts. um, so this quilt is a masterpiece showcasing both exquisite piecing and quilting. Indeed, I agree. Here, this is really cute. It's a pig, a little stuffed pig. And it says Joyce found a pig plush toy made from an antique quilt. It's a stylish pig with long eyelashes. And then this, a quilt left behind by Joyce's grandmother. The fabric has been used often and has become soft and supple. The pattern is the flower garden. It's a gentle quilt with pastel colors. Yeah, I could try Google Lens on that later. And this one, ugh, let's see if it got. Yeah, sorry, this one got cut off, so it didn't translate the whole thing. But this is a really, really pretty pattern. I can't remember what this is called. It's something star, like shining star or something. I'm not sure. So you've got the six-pointed star in the middle, and then you've got these like other points, but they're pointing towards the center versus out. So that's what's unique about it. Okay, so Druid said tobacco felts, or more appropriately, tobacco flannels, were collectibles available to purchasers of tobacco products between 1900 and 1920. Like related premiums as cards and silks, felts could represent a variety of interests, in this case, collegiate sports. Okay, so I guess collegiate sports is indeed were tobacco felts. And you know what? Now that I think about it and reading this, the little fabric ones I think came with tobacco specifically. You know, like loose tobacco. The cigarette ones came, I think, were the little cards. Yeah. Yep. Tobacco silks, also known as cigarette silks, were collectible advertising premiums like baseball cards that tobacco companies inserted into cigarette and cigar packages from the late 1800s until the 1920s. Yeah, so there's the little cards I know that you could collect that came with in the cigarette packages. Yeah. Yes, it's actually really interesting, and it's, I mean, it's probably good that they stop including those things because nobody needs to be smoking, as I tell my father, with his 1 foot and 3 toes in the grave, still smoking. Um, but it is kind of cool that, that we have this ephemera that was included, and people collected those things. I mean, it was like, Pokemon cards, got to catch them all. Um, Yes, like red rose tea cards. And you know what? The other thing that was in red rose tea were those little teeny they were like little porcelain animals and things. I have a few of those. Um Tobacco companies shrewdly targeted women and children, offering practical instructions on how to sew these fabric squares together. Consumers would gather them to create domestic items such as quilts and blankets, piecing hundreds of different silks together to make patchwork quilts. Pillow tops, stitching collections of silks known as state flags or collegiate logos into custom throw pillows. Larger silks and cigar ribbons were sometimes repurposed into smoking jackets or robes. Yep. Yes, those little, and those little animals, those little ceramic animals. There is a name for them. Like they were actually created by some company. And there is like a collectible name for them. I remember I was pretty little, and my grandmother always bought Lipton tea to make iced tea, but I can't remember how it came about, but she got a box of red rose tea, and it had, I think, a kangaroo in it. So those were not just like long ago. Those were in my lifetime, at least when I was a little kid, that they were still including things like that in the tea. I know my mom always said like some of the premiums, that you could get like in washing detergent, like literally a dish, a teacup, and you'd try to, you'd continue using that washing detergent. So you could try to build your entire place settings and stuff. So, I mean, it's just like toys in cereal boxes. They're buying that sense of, loyalty by wanting you to create or complete a collection. Yeah. So, and those little ceramic animals in the tea, those, oh gosh, there were probably hundreds of different varieties of those. I think they were produced, and not necessarily specific to like being included in the tea, but I think they were produced in groups, um, like mammals and birds and farm animals or something like that, stuff like that. You could buy the place settings at the old A&P. I remember there was an AMP when I was a kid. My mom didn't shop there often, but I could picture it in my mind exactly. So funny. It's really interesting. Not to digress, but we think about how different our world is just post pandemic. I mean, if you think about like from 2019 to 2026, things are different. I mean, like a traveler from 2019, if they ended up in 2026, things would, I mean, obviously not be so like, where am I? But there are things I think in 2019 that we would see in now in 2026 and be like, oh my gosh, that came to us within like 7 years. Um, but I always thought about my grandmother, and she was born in 1925. And I thought about all of the things that over the course of her life she saw. She passed away in 2018. And just the change. I mean, she grew up in, rural Appalachian, South Carolina. Um, you know, when she's little, they're still driving Model Ts. Her family had a Model T, Ford. And but everything else, I mean, I think they still had a horse. The horse, they used the horse to pull a plow. They didn't have, a whole bunch of well, they didn't have electricity, period. They still had an outhouse. So all these kind of things. And of course, she was growing up in poverty. It wasn't exactly like, the Stone Age, but still, there was plenty of people in the US in the 1920s that did not have electricity, indoor plumbing, etc. So from there until 2018, I mean, think about the things, from I I don't exactly know what air travel was like in the 20s, but because I know airplanes had been used in World War One, so but they were still kind of a newer technology, right? What, it hadn't been that long since the Wright brothers. So from that kind of air travel, which, as a child in the late 20s, she probably couldn't imagine going and jumping on an airplane. Um, but, you know, by the 60s, when she's got a family, we're on the moon, allegedly. So, gosh, just the changes in my grandmother's lifetime. But when I really think about it, and I mean, hopefully you guys can kind of like feel this too, just from I was born in 1973, and just from the early 70s to now, I feel like it's the same thing. Like, the world does not look anything like the 70s now any more than it looked like the 20s when we got to the 70s, right? It's just it's really kind of mind-boggling when you really think about it. And just, things like AI and um all the stuff, the internet, social media, all these things that we're not taking AI for granted right now. Many of us are railing against it, but um the idea of just being so reliant on technology. I think, when I was growing up, I mean, in high school, I think about, in the 80s being in high school. I never in my wildest dreams could have imagined some of that. I could have never imagined sitting here at my desk in Maryland talking to you guys, in real time, and you guys are all in different places. It's just so wild, right? COVID did definitely throw a monkey wrench into everything. And I think if we didn't have COVID, what would life be like? Would we be as far advanced with AI as we are, assuming we consider ourselves advanced with AI? I don't know. um, and so Druid said, yeah, the 20s was the golden age of aviation. Okay, so I think this, again, yeah, this is a time when like we go from like those little scary little Orville and what was his brother's name? The Wright brothers. We go for the Wright brothers, in their little wonky plane, and Wilbur. That's right. And the planes that you see, like I always think of Snoopy and the Red Baron. Those planes that you would see in like World War One, like we think of, um, and like compare those to like jet planes. Like, I think so much of that did happen. Yeah. Yeah. So let's see, pilots flew longer distances. Yeah. So was it the 1930s was Charles Lindbergh, right? The Spruce Goose was I mean, he was flying. That was the round the world one, right? Um, Amelia Earhart, she was in the 30s as well. So early 30s, I think. So yeah, yeah, definitely like all of this stuff was like really kicking off that aviation. Um, and by the time we cross, World War II, I think World War II, well, I would say World War One probably kicked off a lot of technology. The Civil War technically did too. A lot of our concepts in major surgical intervention, battlefield medicine, and like plastic surgery. The infancy of all of that was the Civil War, which is wild. I mean, that's like 170 years ago, you know? Um, and today, so many innovations also come from, our some of our forever wars. Ooh, don't get me started. Um, so yeah, if when you sit down and really think about some of this stuff, it really blows your mind. Let's see. Druids, air travel was rare, expensive, and uncomfortable experience. Well, it still is. Maybe it's not rare, but it is still an uncomfortable and expensive experience. So maybe some things haven't changed. 1920, commercial aviation was in its infancy. Flights were noisy, cold, and unpressurized. Yeah. Largely reserved for wealthy government mail carriers and daring business. So in World War One, aircraft were fragile, lightweight machines, primarily made of wood, wire, and fabric. I know, I've seen some of those, like, looking at those old planes, and you're like, oh my God, I would not go 10 feet off the ground in something like that, much less like up in the sky. Yowza. Barely a decade after the Wright brothers' first flight, these kites maxed out at 100 to 120 miles per hour. Oh my gosh. Possessed no enclosed cockpits and operated under such perilous conditions that rookie pilots often had life expectancies of just a few days. Oh my gosh. Yes, holy cow. So, yes, we also have calculators. Right? Okay. If you told me sitting there in my algebra class in 1987 or 88 that one day I would not just have a calculator, but I would have a calculator that was on a phone, I would be like, what in the heck are you talking about? That is weird. Why would anybody want a calculator and a phone together? But we do. World War II airplanes were primarily propeller driven, streamlined monoplanes built for specialized combat roles. Powered by piston engines, they relied on heavy machine guns and cannons. The conflict drove massive technological leaps, pushing aircraft from basic fabric and wood biplane, that's what I was trying to remember, early on to early jet and rocket planes. But yeah, so okay. So we're thinking like 1920s, coming out of World War One. We've got, I mean, these things were essentially kites, wood and fabric and wires and stuff, to the early things that we know now. And my gosh, you guys, I love the conspiracy theories. I've been paying attention to all of like the disclosure stuff, about aliens and UAP and all that stuff. And with all of those quote unquote missing scientists. But in paying attention to all that conspiracy stuff, I actually learned some really fascinating stuff that our government and our military and other countries' governments and military have worked on. You guys, I'm gonna come back to me. You guys, some of the things that are that we have the capability of doing, that are not like majorly publicized, are mind-boggling, you guys. The stuff like the jet propulsion labs. I guess there's Wright Air Force Base is one, and I'm trying to think. There's several. Los Alamos. Um, of course, like Los Alamos is also atomic bomb territory. So unfortunately, all this stuff gets used in weaponry and military and all that before it comes to commercial. But I mean, that's capitalism and the military industrial complex, etc. Um, but yeah, things like anti-gravity, and they have their physicists have this theory about these videos of UAP and what that really is, and how how they're operating, and stuff like that. I mean, it's mind-boggling to think all of this stuff is happening in our, in our life, our lifespan. And that's one thing, like, I think, like, oh gosh, I'm getting it to that age where I have to worry about the future. When I was 22, who cares? At 52, though, you start to think, right? Like, I should probably make sure that I don't trip and kill myself. But I keep thinking, like, my gosh, it, are these like the next big innovation, the next big exciting thing, like maybe, like time travel or things like that. Is it just around the corner? I need to stay alive long enough to see those things. um, just, just wait until the alien school is, yes. Never found out what the loud boom the other day. That's right. Your aunt also heard it. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's really interesting. Gosh, we're just gonna go ahead and digress. It's hot. It's Thursday. I cannot concentrate on this Japanese magazine. Um, yeah, so Marianne, you weren't there. I don't think you were there on Saturday for our Stitch and Glitch. Druid was hanging out with us, me and Jill, and she said she heard this like loud boom. Like, what is it? Um, and so you never found out. Didn't you say it sounded like a tree falling or something like that? Um, yeah, we were just worried. We wanted to make sure that everybody and around you, your neighbors, your aunt, everybody was okay. But gosh, if you didn't see anything, ooh. um, there are a lot of booms. People are hearing a lot of booms. And I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, but there are a lot of things happening in our skies right now that I think some of it is just natural occurrences. We've had like a whole lot of meteor strikes. I think we have been traveling through a particular field, or a field of something has been traveling through our orbit. So you've had all those meteor strikes over the past, like year. Um, yeah, something, a quarry blast. Yeah, see, the thing is, we've heard some booms too, because I keep an eye on next door, the neighborhood app, um, just like for like area crime warnings and things like that. Um, and yeah, there's been booms reported. We live probably about 45 minutes from Aberdeen Proving Ground, and we shouldn't be able to hear any of that. But there have been, over the past number of years, like decade or two, there have been every now and then an instance where we've heard something like, just like, not like it's in the backyard or anything, like very far away, but like something that kind of, like, you kind of felt the ground tremble a little bit. And we have seismic readers here in Maryland throughout. We've got the like the state level FEMA is not too far from me, and they have the seismic measurements and stuff too. Um, and every once in a while, they will be testing something up at Aberdeen Proving Ground. It's an army base, um, with ordinances that shakes the whole state. And that is, I mean, again, I'm like 45 minutes from that area. So, I kind of wonder if just, you know, there are things happening at military bases and other locations that may be secret to us that, are causing some of this stuff that we're hearing and seeing. Remember those drones over New Jersey last year? Apparently that was actually some kind of commercial operation, supposedly. They Supposedly, that's what they say. Yeah, they don't want us to call to ask. Exactly. Um, but yeah, so that was the most recent thing I heard about those drones in New Jersey, was that it was actually a commercial drone company doing some kind of testing, and they didn't alert people. I don't know. Yeah, some of it might have been like intellectual property type of stuff. They didn't want to release too much information. I don't know. But and then we see the things like, again, all these meteor strikes. We ask the questions. Lots of booms heard out, in the Los Alamos area. you know, one can only assume. And I always try to be like very careful with that conspiracy theory stuff, because I don't want people to think I'm a lunatic. And I've always kind of looked at that stuff as just kind of human interest. Like, wouldn't it be interesting if, what's really happening at Area 51 and Skinwalker Ranch and all these places? But my gosh, suddenly, this age of disclosure, our government is definitely been looking at this stuff, right? Um, I mean, I can tell you, and some of, if you're interested in this stuff, by the way, if you're a conspiracy theory nerd, um, Lou Elizondo is an interesting guy to look out for. I actually just finished reading his book. He's been in a couple of like TV things. He was in a movie that's or a documentary that is actually on Amazon. I had a whole bunch of points. Like if you roll back your delivery dates on stuff, they give you digital points to use. So I ended up having enough points to rent the movie for free. So I watched the documentary a few weeks ago, and I was just like, I mean, they're talking about like really serious like UFO stuff, not just like, oh, the weather balloons, oh, the swamp gas. Like, no, they're saying like, yeah, and these are major members of our government. We are talking about Marco Rubio, Christian Gillibrand, Lou Elizondo worked for the Pentagon. You've got multiple Pentagon scientists and physicists. So stuff is happening. Um, Nobody would call the cops. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're in a place where you're kind of out there in the country, right? There's always some kind of thing going on. But still also thinking about, you are out in the country, and I understand, sure, there are things, quarries. I mean, we have several quarries near us, and so every now and then it'll be like, oh, it was just the quarry, it's not a big deal. But I don't know. Sometimes the country's supposed to be a quiet place. You shouldn't be hearing stuff like that. Um, and yeah, it is kind of weird when you look on Facebook or next door, and there is no information. And you're like, is it just me? Did I imagine that? Um 911 can be chatty. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You guys crack me up. I think let's see, what time is it? My time. Oh, we are never going to get to any of the reading I had. Why don't we look at one more article? Because I'm really actually very fascinated with this one. Because it's about Julie Silber, who I consider to be a friend. I've known her for a few years now. Of course, if you're not familiar with Julie Silber, she is a very well-known quilt dealer. And she has been collecting and dealing quilts longer than I've been alive. And I don't mean to say that to make Julie sound old, but to say that she's been in the game for a super long time, and she knows stuff. She can spot a grand quilt a mile away. Both of her parents were quilt collectors as well, which is really interesting. Like she grew up, in a household where quilts were important. Her mother specifically collected blue and white quilts, I believe, and so she has had shows of her mother's quilts. I think her father may have been maybe more of a general collector. I don't remember a whole lot of details. And I don't know, I honestly don't know like what kind of business her parents were in, like what her father might have been. But in any event, they, she grew up with this idea of quilts being important pieces of art. And so she opened a shop. I want to say it was in San Rafael in California. In It was open before I was born, so 70, 71 maybe, is my best guess. I don't quote me on those dates because I'm not 100% sure. I just know that I've seen the shop mentioned in, I think, Quilter's Newsletter magazine before September of 1973 when I came along. So, she was running a shop like that before other people were. All of the big dealers that came up, like in New York, American Hurrah, um, Laura Fisher. I don't know how long Laura Fisher was around, but American Hurrah was like, I think late 70s ish when they showed up on the scene. They were very, very, prosperous, well known in the 80s. But Julie always has had some type of, shop or studio or gallery. Not sure when her original shop closed. She had a partner. But then I think after that, it just, became Julie Silber's Quilts is what it is today. But there in the middle, she was doing some wild curating. And that is what this article is about. And I want to get to that. So um, let's jump back over here. First of all, look at this gorgeous quilt. Um, this crazy quilt was made by Sally Fite, Fite, in 1887. So kind of late in the game. And I can't tell what this says. Is it Fight? Oh, it's C Fight. So that must be like her husband or another family member. So C Fight. There's some other information here. Also, is it 1887 also there. And I can't tell what that says. It looks like NEUU, new something. Yeah, it's in incredible condition. And see, this is the thing. Julie, because she has been a quilt dealer so long and, is so, like, everybody knows Julie in the quilt world. Anybody who is a collector, appraiser, dealer, quilt historian, they know that Julie is a destination for finding really, really incredible stuff. I would say probably more quilts have passed through her hands than I have yet seen. And she's an important contributor to the quilt scholarship today because she's seen so many quilts and she's handled so many quilts and she's sold so many quilts. So anyway, this one, beyond it being Sally Fite 1887, I don't know much more about it, but it's a little bit different than some of our traditional crazy quilts that we see, the ones with like all of the chinoiserie, the fans, and that kind of stuff. It's still got the owls, it's got shoes, but I think it's regionally different. I think that might be sort of, what's going on here is it's not quite like I think there was probably a density of people creating crazy quilts, particularly here on the East Coast. I've seen a lot that were definitely East Coast oriented, that had all that stuff that we know, the fans and the things. This is just much more simple, but still really interesting because all these hands or gloves, lots of that, shoes. Is this? It looks like a rabid squirrel. That might also be, I don't know, that's some kind of little animal. But yeah, I think that this is just a really interesting quilt. You've got some crosses, presuming maybe there was a religious connection to that. I don't know if these are bells or vessels of some sort. I don't know. Birds, 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 birds. There's another cross. So yeah, this one is just it's really interesting. It seems like maybe she's the soul maker. We don't know. But presumably. And I kind of interested in how it looks like she had some very large pieces of velvet that she sort of appliques stuff on top of as well. So like these borders. So lovely, lovely. So, oops. Bear with me, you guys. I think I've got these out of order. I think I might be going in the wrong direction now. Here we go. So this is Julie. I don't know if this was in 1996 or if this is an older picture. It's so funny now though because she wears glasses, and I always am surprised when I see I see pictures of her from back in the day because I'm like, oh, it's Julie, but she doesn't look like she does now. She wears glasses, her hair is different. Maybe interested in palmistry, perhaps. I mean, gloves I think were a thing, like just like shoes, just a thing everybody had. So I think it could also just be like kind of just an emblem that people liked, but also, hand and heart, that's a symbol, that's symbolism, even though I don't think any of those had hearts. Yeah, so I think there's lots of possibilities there. So this is the article about Julie, and what I can say is these, I believe, I will confirm when I look, but these I believe are Levi Strauss or Esprit. But we will read and find out. So I will put it back on the quilt. Oops, wrong way. Put it back on the quilt so you can look at it as I read this. Okay. All right, here we go. So, apparel manufacturer decorates office with quilts. That's the title of that. It says Levi Strauss and Company. And the funny thing is, more weird translations. It starts off with Leap Strauss. So again, I think it's that translation between the little their characters and English or Romance language alphabet. So Levi Strauss and Company, a globally renowned jeans manufacturer, is run by Walter Jr. and Peter Haas, descendants of the company's founders. Two employees approached them and suggested, why don't we start an art collection? This idea, somewhat radical for its time, was embraced by the two bosses. They decided to begin a collection with a small budget. The year was 1968, and the two courageous employees were Rita Guiney and Dan Weinberg. Several prints, I think meaning paintings, several prints were immediately purchased, including works by Sam Francis and Adolf Gottlieb. Gottlieb, I believe, was like a mid-century modern artist. Since then, Rita and Dan have collected paintings, sculptures, prints, and other works of art for Levi's. In the 1970s, at Rita's suggestion, quilts and photographs were added to the collection. These were particularly popular with the employees, perhaps because they were both familiar to them. That's pretty cool. Few people had experience creating works with paint or bronze, but everyone owned a camera, and sewing fabric together was the same as the company's business. Gradually, quilts and photographs became indispensable to Levi's art collection. Currently, about 50 of the 400 art pieces in the collection are quilts. So again, remember, this is 1996. I don't know what the status of that collection is now. They are all located in the corridors, lobbies, and other common areas of the Levi's headquarters building in San Francisco. It is displayed in the company. I don't exactly know how that should have been translated, but only employees and visitors can see the quilts. Unfortunately, is not open to the general public. So they're basically saying, like, you have to have business with Levi's to go see their quilts. The purpose of displaying quilts in the company is described in Levi's company profile as follows. Displaying art in the workplace is a reflection of our spirit of respecting innovation and creativity. Its purpose is to create an interesting and stimulating environment for employees and visitors to enjoy and to enhance the vitality of the visual arts. The idea that quilts improve the overall environment of the company is wonderful and groundbreaking. Um, According to Guinea, I think Rita Guinea, she buys quilts that are visually appealing and in good condition, regardless of their age or origin. As a result, the collection ranges from quite old to more recent pieces. There are modern designs from over 100 years ago, as well as the latest quilts. All of the quilts are popular with the employees. Levi's has always valued the concept of popularity. Since its founding in 1850, the company has continued to produce comfortable and durable clothing and is now the world's largest apparel manufacturer. That's interesting. I didn't know that. In 96. Its company philosophy is employee centered and devoid of pretense. And this spirit lives on in its art collection as well. All the quilts are displayed in a place where employees can see them. Furthermore, each piece has a detailed explanation, which is also found in the museum's catalog and labels, I'm assuming, meaning Levi's, not a museum, but Levi's gallery, maybe, or something. It is, let's see, yeah. It's not like the complicated, confusing, and difficult to understand explanations you might find elsewhere. It's simply an explanation that's easy to read and understand. Levi's company's magnificent art collection isn't collected and displayed to impress outsiders. Its spirit is always with its employees. And then it says, in parentheses, interview by Julie Silber. So I'm thinking Julie must have interviewed Rita and Dan. I'm thinking, because I don't think that Julie did any work for Levi's specifically. And so the little piece by her picture says, for over 25 years, I have been collecting and researching quilts. She gives lectures in various locations and is also active as a curator. Since 1932, I think it's 1992, she has been the quilt curator for Esprit, a San Francisco company, and is also a co-producer of the film Hearts and Hands. There is a book that accompanies that, by the way. You might have it. Her representative exhibitions include American Quilts, a handcrafted heritage, held at the Oakland Art Museum in 1980, and Amish Quilt, the art of quilting, held at the San Francisco Museum of Art in 1980. So that's interesting. I had thought, I did not read this beforehand. I kind of thought this was going to be an article about Julie, and I had originally thought it was a spree. But I did notice when it did the translation that it was Levi's. So I was curious to know, gosh, had Julie done work with Levi's too? And she might have. She very well could be the source of some of their collection. But it seems like that she actually interviewed these Levi's employees to get this information. Very interesting. And you know what? Did I? Okay. So this caption under this quilt, which I didn't read before, says, one of Levi's collection pieces, a New Year's gift for Sally Fight, 1887, made to celebrate Sally's birthday, a heartfelt creation by the family. So was that not actually made by Sally Fight, as I had initially thought? That's that's sometimes you just don't know if you don't have any kind of information with a quilt. It's got somebody's name on it. So the question is, did they make it and sign it with their name, or was it made for them and features their name? It's always a question if you don't have really good records. So Very cool. And again, here's the Levi's. Let's see. This one is it's the office of Levi Strauss, and this is the Levi Plaza, a particularly prominent building or on Battery Avenue in San Francisco. Well, okay, we're not going to get to Rod Kiracofe. And we're also obviously not getting to Avril Colby. Did I not say at the top of this stream, you guys, that I was going to get to Avril Colby? Because we really haven't done much in here. Been bits and pieces. You know what? I'm going to read a section of this. I am going to read this little section. We have 10 minutes. I'm going to do it. So, very quickly, we are reading Patchwork by Avril Colby, published in 1958. She's a British author. Avril isn't going anywhere. She is deceased. Not even halfway through this book. Remember when we used to read books quickly? So let me just read this little section. So I believe we're in chapter 8, and this is about lining and finishing the quilt. So she's already talked about the inner lining, the backing and batting. So, oh, Druid, have you found something? High-speed construction blaster, heavy road work. Interesting. And how far away are you from that highway? Is it like close enough that that makes sense? Because I could see, like, I mean, a road crew, they probably, you know, if it's something like 1 mile, okay, that makes sense. I bet that is what it is. They might have, I mean, I think sometimes those road crews, like, they can blast, you know, if they're widening things or, well, that's definitely a relief. It was not alien invasion. It was not a meteor. But yeah, that sounds similar. Yeah. To the things that go on and I've heard before. Okay. Quilting. The two traditional methods by which the 3 layers of an interlined quilt are stitched together and so kept in place are quilting and tying or knotting, in which the work is literally tied together. Quilting is undoubtedly the perfect complement to a well-designed patchwork quilt, but technical knowledge as well as skill and equipment is necessary to carry it out. The quilting tradition is as ancient as that of any other kind of needlework in this country, England, and it is most familiar now in its association with the making of bed coverings. We know that it joined forces with patchwork at least as early as the beginning of the 18th century, also shown by the Levin's Hall quilt of 1708, where the quilting is carried out in a red thread. There is a strong quilting association with patchwork in many parts of the country, particularly in the north, South Wales, and the southwestern counties of England. It was a common custom in districts where quilting was a means of earning a livelihood for the professional workers to be commissioned to quilt patchwork tops made by those who could not quilt. The professionals would rarely make a patchwork top for a quilt unless it was for themselves or their families. This was especially so that the women who combined their quilting with the business of village dressmaker, this was especially so with the women who combined their quilting with the business of village dressmaker. But it was a generally understood thing that the patchwork should be provided by the customer who required the quilting to be done. The rates of pay varied in different parts of the country. It cost from 6 pence to a shilling to have the patchwork quilted in South Wales, although some well-known quilters received as much as 5 shillings. In Cornwall, 3 shillings and 6 pence was a fair price, but some workers received 10, 15, or 20 shillings. A worker in North Devon charged her neighbors 3 shillings and sixpence. In the North, quilt clubs were run in which the work was done and charged for on an installment system. Weekly payments were made while the quilting was being done. That's interesting. It's kind of like layaway, but like while the quilting is going on. During a revival of quilting as a home industry from 1929 until 1939, a standard rate of 2 shillings and sixpence the square foot was paid for fine work, which gave the quilter an approximate amount of £3, 6 shillings for her work on a quilt. And I feel like, if I remember correctly, those seem like the right, like, those are the numbers that I think Mavis Fitz-Randolph, I think, had in her book. And I don't think Elizabeth Hake really went into prices so much, but I know Mavis Fitz-Randolph did. Quilting was a craft on its own, but no book on patchwork would be complete without its inclusion, both in the making up of the patchwork tops, as in this chapter, and in the part it plays in patchwork patterns. In spite of this association, it is not possible to give detailed instructions in the technique here, but only the general requirements necessary for completing a patchwork quilt. To do the work successfully, it is necessary to have a proper quilting frame. A rough method, sometimes adopted, is to spread the work on the floor and run the layers together as they lie in position, with diagonal lines of stitching, but this is not to be recommended. It may well be that the size of a quilting frame is a handicap. One of medium size measures approximately 5 feet 6 inches long and 3 feet wide when set up for working. Not an easy thing to accommodate in any but a large room. I can tell you that, I know that. Some American workers use a large circular frame, similar to those used in embroidery, but this entails doing the quilting in small sections while holding the work on the knee. It is not an easy method. Well, unless you get a stand to hold it, and then it's a little bit easier. For those who have no knowledge of the correct technique, a certain amount of practical instruction will go a long way, and experience will do the rest. In districts which have... there goes my whole everything. In districts which have an established quilting tradition... Wow, okay. In districts which have an established quilting tradition, the patchwork pieces are comparatively large and the designs simple, so that the quilting will show to the best advantage. Many of the quilts are made in blocks, alternately patchwork or applique and plain, with the most elaborate quilting done on the plain squares. She's already kind of talked about this. In a number of the North Country patterns made from plain self-colored and white calicos, the quilting patterns are dictated by the outlines of the patchwork. In the strippy quilts, the long flowing patterns such as running feather, twist, and so on are found on the plain stripes, whereas the patchwork is quilted with one of the plainer background patterns such as diamond. A pattern of double diagonal lines quilted on a patchwork pattern made by Dorcas Jolly, I love that name, in Westmoreland about 1850 was called the matrimony pattern. The unskilled quilting patterns in geometrical patchwork are those which follow the outline of the patches, so that the effect on the back of the work is of an all-over pattern, such as honeycomb, diamond, shell, or whatever other shape the patches may be. It is a simple method and may be done without a quilting frame, as long as the layers of material are thoroughly tacked first. A good way of doing this is described in the method of preparation for tying, which we will talk about later. All right, so I fulfilled my Avril responsibility today. Got a few minutes there. Well, you guys, it is about that time. I actually have a meeting this afternoon that I have to go get ready for, so that is what I will be doing next. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. It is Friday Eve after all, and I hope you stay cool. It sounds like we're all in for the heat right now. Although I think what, let's see, the other night, Jill and I, when we were doing, we were on our stream, quilt nerding, one of our friends in Northern California had just beautiful weather. So we will count her out. She's having beautiful weather. The rest of us are roasting alive. So anyway, I hope you guys stay cool and have a fantastic weekend. And see, we don't have a Stitch and Glitch or anything coming up, so it's business as usual. And I will see you on Monday. Perhaps we'll finish reading Quilting Tsushin, or I'm sorry, Patchwork Tsushin. And I also want to get to that amazing, hilarious story that I found out about recently, and I want to read it to you guys because I want to know how it ends. So, all right, take care, guys. Stay cool. Have a cool drink. Put your feet in some cold water. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.